Hello and welcome to Unsourced Wall. My name is Elvis, and as always, I am your host. Alright, so there's going to be a couple of news items with the most odd news topic this week, which is that apparently Batwoman is not going to be recasting Ruby Rose. They're going to be retiring the character entirely of Kate Kane, and they're bringing a new character to take over the mantle and the series, which is pretty weird and shocking because it seems like they're going out of their way to even do this. I guess this leaves open the option for Ruby Rose to come back for guest spots and for cameo appearances, things that would allow her to keep a handle on the character if they wanted. That makes sense to me in that way because they did spend so much time with Ruby Rose as being a guest character on like Supergirl and during the event series before making her own series. And it would be weird to have that much focus on her dynamics with these characters in other series and in her own show and then expecting that to be replicated with a new actress. But to create another character entirely just seems really weird and silly. And if you want to have Kate Kane and Ruby Rose available for guest spots, then don't have the show anymore. That's probably not feasible because people are working on the show, people have jobs, and they have actual kind of income here, and that's, really something you need to protect, especially in times like these. But it does seem like a little stopgap rather than an actual solution or way forward for the show. People who have seen the show are befuddled at what they could even do. And there is rumors that it might lead to casts being introduced, which would be interesting, I guess, but that's up in the air. It only really caught my attention because you have something like Gotham, which recasts a lot of roles, but most notably Scarecrow, who got like 3 to 4 different actors throughout his appearances on the show, but they managed it so seamlessly that you could hardly tell a difference had happened, and I really enjoyed how they were able to keep it consistent. But fingers crossed for Batwoman, and hopefully fans of the show are going to be able to get something that is going to appeal to them without ruining what they liked about the first season, whatever that was. After that, in terms of casting, we have the surprising news that Henry Cavill is working on a deal to return as Superman in cameo and guest spot appearances in upcoming DCEU movies, which is kind of disappointing because I think it devalues like his role impact if you have to spread him around a lot, and it also devalues whatever he's put into in terms of them being actual solitary individual products, which is something that I've actually really enjoyed about DCEU and other comic movies that have done the same thing recently, where they are enjoyable on their own and they're not beholden to anything but themselves and to their characters and to what stories they want to tell with those characters. So I think that having Superman in roles throughout the rest of these movies would really lessen that effect and make it feel a little bit too generic, a little bit too homogenized. And also it seems kind of a waste because after rewatching Man of Steel recently, I think Man of Steel 2 would be the best way forward because it has so much potential there. Now, a lot of things that would have been really fun to see in Man of Steel 2 were already used up in Batman vs. Superman. So if you wanted to have Henry Cavill back and you want to do Man of Steel 2 properly, you would have to take that into account. And the best way to do that would probably be to adapt the reign of the Superman aspects of the Death Return Superman, where you have Superman already being back, having to deal with Metropolis trying to step up and trying to find its own way in his absence in order to kind of highlight that tension and that sort of divide that he now has to face. So that would be interesting to see. But in any case, it's glad to see that Henry Cavill is still in the ring here. So fingers crossed for that. And lastly, it seems that Josh Boone still hopes to finish his New Mutants trilogy, and that Simon Kinberg wants to make another X-Men movie based on Jean Grey, starring Famke Janssen. And if that's their way of saying they want to continue the XCU, all speed ahead. I'm totally for that. I want to see this continue in some way. Anyway, let's just head on into what I read this week. First off, we have Swamp Thing New Roots number 6 by Mark Russell. And I have to say, if this is the end of it, and I don't know if it's the end of it, but I don't see how it can continue, then this was a great ride. It was probably a really fun, if breezy, and kind of airy read. This issue does the most out of anything it can get. It takes all of the burgeoning and already seeded themes, messages, tones, and atmosphere, and pushes it to the extreme. It leaves nothing untouched with its energy, with its cynicism, with its commentary for the best, because I think Mark Russell works best when he's really scathing, really funny, and really darkly blunt. And what helps ground it a lot is, again, like I said, Swamp Thing's characterization, his dynamics with others, and his humanity. These humane beats with him are so pitch perfect, and him having to bounce off his clone daughter, Flora, is beautiful. It's something that I really love about Swamp Thing, and the way he connects and tries to forge relationships with other people is that it can be kind of awkward, kind of clunky, but he means well. And a writer that can tap into that uneasiness and that shyness and that vulnerability like Russell does here captures the heart of the character, and that's what this issue does, and that's what this entire backup series has done. And it works beautifully as a capstone to the journey this character has gone on throughout these 6 issues. Like I said, I don't know if this is the finale. Totally wraps up the story, and it completely nullifies all the previous plot threads that it can. There's nothing else there that they can really do their best at, that they can really touch without having to go back. Even though it could have been a lot defier, it could have been a lot more complex, and I think it was really, limited by being a short backup series in the Walmart giant size packages. What it led to was something that was very succinct and without any kind of fattiness to it. It was a very plot driven, very character driven, very theme driven story, and it worked to that effect immensely. So overall, 2 thumbs up. Mark Russell was a surprisingly great Swamp Thing writer, and I couldn't have asked for a better story right now because it totally shows exactly what you can do with the character if you put in the time, patience, and thought. So I definitely recommend this one. If an issue comes out next week and it's still being written by Russell, then I'm going to be checking that one out for sure. After that, we have John Constantine, Hellblazer number 6, and this was a fun single issue. It's not something that picks up the story or ramps up in any kind of way outside of a little tangential reference to the myth arc, but it's a great issue in that it totally is unnerving and overly complex and disturbing and kind of eerie, but also really viscerally thrilling and disgusting. And I think that's really what Spurrier can do well and has maybe not been as fulfilled in this series so far up until this issue. I think that there's been aspects of previous issues that have kind of touched upon this, but they've also been really hampered by the myth arc, by having to deal with John's return itself and him building up his cast of characters. While this one is a lot more like, I would say, the Blink episode of Doctor Who, where it's not necessarily a focus on John. It's one of those issues that focuses on a completely independent character, and through that lens and through this character, it really is very effective at being unnerving and being disarming, and also really tragic, pitiful, and sad. It's a perfect issue in that way, and I loved it for that. I was really enthralled, even if it has some of Spurrier's indulgences, but it's totally worth it because it sucks you in like any good horror read should, and Spurrier definitely knows how to set the stage and create a scene that is not likely to let you sleep at night. Overall, 2 thumbs up. It's a great return for this series. I can't wait for more issues from this. It's good to see that Spurrier's mark on the Sandman universe and the Vertigo side of things is still going strong. And lastly, we have Shazam number 12, not by Jeff Johns this time, but by Jeff Parker. This was meant to be an upcoming interlude issue after Johns' season 1 had finished, but obviously that's been delayed because of everything. So they had this issue in the can and they released it now, and it's a team-up issue with Batman. And if you wanted to, you could definitely see this just being an issue that's set in the regular old pre-Flashpoint DCU, and nothing about it would change that much. The impact would be the same. But taking all that aside, it's still a pretty fun issue. I don't really have that much love for Jeff Parker, but I won't deny that his Captain Marvel work has been excellent and is well loved and well regarded for a reason, and that prowess is definitely on display here. He captures not only the old sensibilities of Billy Batson and Captain Marvel in his cast and world, but also what makes the New 52 John's version interesting and unique and really engaging to read. Better than John's even, because one thing about the Rebirth series that John's been writing that I haven't liked at all is that Johns doesn't seem to have any grasp of the characters at all. He doesn't seem to have any grasp of where they're going, of what stories and arcs they're trying to tell with them. At the end of Shazam, it seemed very definite, very solid, but when the Rebirth series started, like almost a decade after, it seemed that with hindsight and with a lot of time in between, John just felt lagged about it, and he relied too much on retconning, kind of retrofitting, and also movie synergy, that it lost a lot of what made it interesting and exciting to begin with. And I think that even though Jeff Parker is obviously reaching back to those old tones and atmospheres and energies, he's nailing the New 52 aspect a lot better too. And that's a shame because it's only 12 issues in and now we're finally getting something that feels like it belongs there. And if the rumors are true and if Johns is stepping back, then I would definitely prefer to see Parker take the reins on the series. Then I would have complete faith in that. And it works for what it is, but what worked the most and was most notable for me was the way it handled balancing the contrasting ideas of what Captain Marvel used to be and what he is now. Fingers crossed for that. And overall, 1 thumb up, 1 thumb middle. And now we can move on to what I watched this week. We have Stargirl episode 3 titled Icicle. And this was a pretty good episode as well. I think it continues episode 2's hot streak in terms of actually, settling the show as knowing what it wants to do and also not falling into a lot of obvious cliches and pit traps. Although it does leave a lot open, like episode 2 did, where it could lead into that kind of stuff, where it could allow itself to just fall and get mired into a lot of melodrama that is unnecessary, uninteresting, and underwritten. But so far, this episode was pretty good. The only thing I have against it is that it does what a lot of C-rate CW shows do, and that I hate and that I think is completely overused, which is that it rushes really important character beats for characters we have yet to come around to knowing and caring about in order to elicit drama. We're only 3 episodes in, and like 2 characters who were just starting to get interesting were killed off like that. I'm not shocked. I'm not like in despair. I'm not like emotional about it. I'm just annoyed. It's irritating because I would rather have these characters around for a little bit longer, develop a little bit more, tether to both the audience and the show and the characters around them. And then when you kill them, because that's still going to be in the cards, I would have a reaction to it other than, oh my god, you just gave these people these scenes for the most obvious reason and then you didn't even stray at all in order to make it clever or interesting or inventive. But that would probably be my only real qualm with this episode. Other than that, it's fun. Courtney has, again, really centered herself as a character. She's so identifiable, she's so likable and sympathetic and emphatic, and you can definitely just believe in her as a hero and believe in her as a character who has all these emotions and who is having trouble connecting and wants to connect and is really trying to live up to this heroic mantle that she believes she has to, that she believes is her destiny. And I think Breck Basinger is doing a great job juggling all of that. And Luke Wilson, of course, is still the highlight of the show. He's got a great sensibility to him. He's so aw shucks golly gee. He is an immensely likable character and just so silly and ridiculous. And it's hard to not really be amazed that Luke is able to radiate that personability and amiability off the screen, but he nails it fucking amazingly. And the one big set piece of the episode where they're fighting Icicle really captures that, because you see how they're bouncing off each other, how they're bouncing off Icicle, and the differences in contrast that really are straining them as a father and daughter trying to learn how to be a father and daughter, but also why they're so complementary and why they really do have this growing tight-knit bond. And that's the kind of stuff I like. I think that's really doing a great job at taking its time with that. And they have this really, really soft and simple and effective heart-to-heart that is riveting, and it's riveting in a way that CW shows usually aren't. They usually feel really forced and fickle and facile. That was surprisingly good. I had a great time with that. It was something that really drew me in and made me appreciate the show that much more, especially when you see how that kind of leads to a feedback with the other characters, like with Stargirl's mother. Like I said, these things are bubbling up and they are leading to fractures in the family unit, which is devastating. And it's really heartbreaking, or at least heartrending, when you see the absence of both them and her. And something's gonna have to give, and I can't wait for that, because I hope the show can pull it off skillfully. So the show is still finding its feet, but it's doing it in a way that, might have some things that I would want there to be improvement on, but it's definitely still just a fun show. And it's good to know that there's someone out there on this production team that still recognizes that Cobra style is the anthem of the youth. 2 thumbs up. And I can't wait to see what episode 4 brings and what the rest of the season brings, and hopefully it only continues to rise up and improve. Anyway, that's it for what I watched this week. As always, I want to say thank you to everyone out there who's ever sent in a question, comment, or topic to the show. It means so much to me. It's the great experience ever. I still haven't had time to ask for any more. It's been really hectic here, but rest assured, I really am missing that. So the first chance I get, I am definitely going to try and scour for as many questions as I can from you guys, because they're always so amazing. So fingers crossed that it happens soon. And if anyone out there has his own question, comment, or topic, you can always find me on Twitter at THE_SNICKMAN, and please check out the cover artist for the show at DOTEMCEE. Give them a follow, give them likes. They really deserve all the love they can get. Anyway, that's it for this week. As always, thank you for listening, and have a great one, and see you again next time.